What just happened in the Taiwan Strait is not a routine patrol. It is a calculated, surgical dismantling of China's most carefully constructed strategic illusion. The United States has just executed one of the most consequential operational maneuvers in the modern history of Indo-Pacific competition. In May 2026, an autonomous uncrewed surface vessel, designated the Lightfish, completed the first fully autonomous transit of the entire Taiwan Strait, traversing the 110-mile waterway over 5 continuous days without a single human crew member aboard. This is not merely a technological achievement. It is a geopolitical statement of extraordinary clarity, delivered in the language Beijing understands most acutely: irreversible military precedent. Throughout its transit, the Lightfish conducted persistent real-time monitoring of all surface vessel traffic in the strait, gathering intelligence across the full length of one of the world's most contested and strategically sensitive maritime corridors. And China, for all its bluster and its colossal naval buildup, could do nothing to stop it. What made the Lightfish transit even more operationally significant was what it encountered during those 5 days. A Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy Type 056 corvette was operating well inside Taiwan's exclusive economic zone, while deliberately suppressing its automatic identification system signal, meaning the vessel was intentionally concealing its identity and position. This is the behavior of a navy that understands it is operating in contested waters and is actively attempting to obscure its presence from international observation. The Lightfish documented this encounter comprehensively. The irony is inescapable and devastating for Beijing's narrative. China has spent years asserting that the Taiwan Strait falls under its sovereign jurisdiction, that foreign military vessels transit at its discretion. Yet here was a Chinese warship, hiding its own identity, while an American autonomous vessel logged its every movement with clinical precision. The Lightfish operation did not emerge in isolation. It represents the apex of an accelerating pattern of American strategic assertiveness that began intensifying at the opening of 2026. On January 16th and 17th, the guided missile destroyer USS John Finn and the ocean survey vessel USNS Mary Sears conducted the year's first Taiwan Strait transit together. The inclusion of the Mary Sears is where the genuine strategic depth of this operation reveals itself. The Mary Sears is a Pathfinder-class vessel whose primary operational mission is the collection of oceanographic, hydrographic, acoustic data across the sea floor. Every nautical mile it traverses through the strait yields bathymetric maps, underwater terrain profiles, subsurface acoustic signatures that feed directly into the United States Navy's submarine warfare planning, mine warfare doctrine, and anti-submarine operations. In other words, Washington wasn't just sailing through. It was reading the ocean floor directly beneath Beijing's most critical strategic waterway. China's response to the John Finn and Mary Sears transit revealed something critically important about the limits of its operational confidence. The PLA Eastern Theater Command deployed Navy and Air Force assets to monitor the transit, as it routinely does. But Beijing issued no formal condemnation. This is a profound departure from previous behavior, where China reliably unleashed rhetorical fury at every American passage through the strait. The silence is not restraint born of indifference. It is the silence of a military establishment that has not yet developed a credible, proportionate counter to what the United States is demonstrating. Launching a diplomatic protest against a vessel that is collecting bathymetric data while asserting legal freedom of navigation is strategically self-defeating. Beijing knows this, so it watches and says nothing. Yet China has simultaneously been accelerating the most aggressive military posturing it has ever directed at Taiwan. The Justice Mission 2025 exercises, conducted in late December, constituted the largest military drills Beijing has ever executed around the island, surpassing all 6 of the major war games conducted since August 2022, combined in terms of geographic scope and operational complexity. The PLA Navy, Air Force, Rocket Force, supporting branches rehearsed a complete maritime blockade, practicing the seizure of air and sea control, the targeting of key ports, the deterrence of external forces attempting to intervene. By April 2026, the PLA had recorded 169 aerial incursions into Taiwan's air defense identification zone in a single month. On May 28th alone, Taiwan detected 251 Chinese military aircraft in surrounding airspace, with at least 194 crossing or approaching the unofficial median line, while 183 naval vessels were identified in surrounding waters. The raw numbers tell the story of a military machine rehearsing, not threatening. But here is where Washington's strategic calculus becomes brilliantly clear, and where China's real problem crystallizes. Every autonomous Lightfish transit, every Mary Sears passage through the strait collecting subsurface acoustic profiles, every John Finn patrol asserting freedom of navigation, is doing something that no amount of Chinese military theater can neutralize. It is establishing operational precedent. International maritime law rests on the principle of consistent, documented usage. Each time the United States transits the Taiwan Strait, and the international community observes that transit occurring without incident, the legal and operational ground beneath China's sovereignty claims erodes a fraction more. The accumulation of these transits over years has constructed an evidentiary edifice that no diplomatic protest can dismantle. China cannot unring this bell. The Lightfish operation pushed that precedent into an entirely new dimension. This was because it demonstrated that the United States can assert and document these rights without placing a single service member in the operational theater. The asymmetric strategic logic running through all of this is almost mathematically elegant. China has invested hundreds of billions of dollars in its anti-access area denial architecture. The DF-21D and DF-26 carrier-killer ballistic missiles, the Type 055 destroyer program, the J-20 stealth fighter fleet, all of it designed to raise the cost of American military presence in the first island chain to an unacceptable level. The foundational assumption of this entire doctrine is that Washington will flinch when confronted with the prospect of losing manned platforms and their crews. An autonomous vessel like the Lightfish removes that assumption from the equation entirely. There is no crew to mourn, no political cost in casualties, no congressional hearing to endure. If China intercepts or damages an autonomous American vessel conducting illegal transit through international waters, it has committed an act of aggression without extracting the political price it calculated. And Washington has demonstrated that it can keep sending them indefinitely. The cumulative strategic picture that emerges is one of a United States methodically closing every exit ramp on the path China believed it had constructed toward Taiwan. The acoustic data the Mary Sears collected maps the underwater environment where Chinese submarines would need to operate in any blockade scenario. The Lightfish transit demonstrated that American autonomous systems can operate persistently inside Beijing's most sensitive operational zone without triggering the escalation ladder China's doctrine assumes it controls. The 194 Chinese aircraft detected crossing the median line on a single day in May represent tactical muscle flexing. But muscle flexing without the capacity to alter the operational facts on the water is theater, and Washington appears to have calculated, with considerable precision, exactly where the line between provocation and strategic checkmate runs in the Taiwan Strait.